Björk or Björk is an Icelandic singer-songwriter, musician, producer, actress, and poet. She projects an otherworldly image from pixie to dark fae like Titania, Queen of the Fairies. And she's an intense and unique storm of creativity in a very arty kind of way, uh, which often involves some very unusual costumes. It's interesting to read her page on Wikipedia and to see the pictures. It kind of reminds me of Peter Gabriel dressing up in the Genesis days. In her teens, she was in an all-girl punk band called Spit and Snot and a jazz fusion group called Exodus. Over the next few years, she was in various bands. I've picked out some with names Medusa, Rocka Rocka Drum, Huckle, and the Elgar Sisters. Um, Towards the end of this kind of period of many bands. He was in a band called Fuckle, which changed their name to the Sugar Cubes, who are the band that some people know of Björk as being the singer for. Eventually, in 1993, she started her solo career. She's released 10 albums so far. She's forged her own career direction and is known for being experimental and unusual, but has been very popular, especially in the 90s. She blazed a trail for unusual female artists to follow, expanding on what Kate Bush did before her. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the ninth studio album from Björk, or Björk, depending on how you like to pronounce it. And it's my first time listening to it. So I know some of her early albums quite well. In fact, I've got copies of, I think, the first three, but not the later stuff so much. And I will put my cards on the table and say that ever since I've encountered her, I've been a fan of Björk's. Um, she was always thought of when she kind of broke through as weird, and she has got weirder, most definitely. So this album was co-produced by Arca, who is an avant-garde electronic music producer. And I'll come back to that. So I would describe this as being, hard to describe. Avant-garde and experimental. It's definitely music, um, but I'm not sure how much you could say that it's anywhere really in the realms of pop or rock anymore. It's stepped so far out of that. Um, no, not both. Wikipedia puts the label. I'm trying to remember what it is. Folk, folktronica, which is a cross between folk and electronica, obviously. And yeah, I'm not really sure about that, but I guess I can see where they're coming from that. Um, it's got some dominant sounds in here, so there's a mixture of there's quite a bit of harp in various places, but there's flutes and bird songs and synths and samples. Um, and Mostly it's not grooves. Sometimes there are beats that kind of backing stuff, but they're mostly kind of tinny drill like things. But unlike a lot kind of modern pop drill stuff, it's not high in the mix. It's there as a backing, as a bit of a flavour. The general effect, I would say, is quite ethereal. There's a lot of production stuff on here, like overlaid echoes, reverb, tiny embellishments, interleaved things of her voice going on. At times, it's got a kind of glitchy feel to it as well. Musically, it's quite alternative, so don't expect recognizable solid chord sequences. It's got more of a feel of kind of modern classical harmonies and sometimes a bit discordant, but just kind of differently cordant, if that's a phrase that I can use. There is a theme of birdsong through it, um, and it's apparently there's this thing about relationship between birdsong and flutes, and with flutes and with synths and birdsong. So it's kind of cyclic relation. There's quite a lot of natural world samples used in here, not all of them being birds, I don't think. There's one that sounds like the snarl of a cougar in one of the tracks. Quite a lot of bird sounds there, and apparently quite a few of these sounds are field recordings by Björk herself. Um, for what else can I say? Yeah, tracks are linked together generally, which gives it a kind of continuum feel. The singing, as always with Björk, the singing is amazing. She's got this really unusual way of approaching singing. It's expressive and it's got this otherworldly feel to it. It's got a sense of tune, which is unlike anybody else's. It's as if she's making it up and just finding notes as she goes along. But I'm pretty sure that she does replicate these tunes, and it's not like improvised jazz thing that'll be different every time. But it's not the way anybody else I know of approaches tunes. And she's got an unusual pronunciation and approach to words, and approach to delivery of the words. So she's one of the classics is that she would pronounce the word get as jet, and getting hard G's and putting them with soft G's. But there's all sorts of other little tweaks in there to the sound. Now, I don't know how much of that comes from the Icelandic. I don't know if it's something that she hasn't been able to shake off in an accent, or it's just all done deliberately. I really don't know, but it is something that is quite symptomatic for singing. It's part of the whole thing, um, and it's she also tends to sing each word as if it's individual, and so it becomes across as slightly unusually disjointed. But she can sing really nicely. The words are, I think, mostly quite positive stuff about love and relationships. But again, it's Björk, so it's got this kind of unusual approach to the lyrics, like everything that she does. The result, you get the idea, is unusual. It sits aside from other things. There's only one album that I would say it reminds me of, and that's just the birdsong element. Reminds me of Kate Bush's album Ariel, which I reviewed not that long ago. And comparisons with Björk and Kate Bush are quite a common thing to do. Um, I have to say, I've got mixed feelings about this album. Um, some of her albums that I've heard I've really, really liked, and this one didn't grab me as much. I like quite a lot of the sound, but it feels a bit relentless in terms of this aesthetic that it's got. And the drilly percussion stuff is not to my taste. So I mentioned Arca earlier, who is an avant-garde electronic music producer, and I reviewed an album by them quite a while ago on the channel, and I went back to it briefly, and I can hear Arca's stamp on this album, and I wasn't that taken with Arca's album, and I think that some of I'm sure it was a strong collaboration between the two of them, but I've got a feeling that some of the Arca influence here is part of the stuff that means I like it less than I do some of her other albums. So it's a bit of a mixed feeling that I've got about this album. As always, I'd love to know what you think though, so please do let me know by leaving me a comment. And that's it from me for now.
He turned me down. I then